yesterday.
Oh, okay. Oh, don't worry about it. So how's everything, Vuyo? We don't even need to introduce him anymore. This is a continuing series on African arts and culture coming out of Johannesburg. We have Vuyo VUMISA, great poet and also a very, very great photographer and musician, jazz and other types of music that's improvised. How's it going? How's the weather there today, Vuyo?
It's actually pretty hot, man. The
It's
weather
hot.
is
Okay.
great. It's
Wow. So
sunny.
and it's not summertime yet, is it? No.
No, no, no. It's still
And
autumn. We're
yeah,
in
so, but
autumn.
autumn, yeah, we're in autumn also. So, but we're going towards the cold weather. Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's
Okay.
very sunny.
Yeah.
Chill, chill.
So today we're continuing with a series that was inspired by Zim, and Zim was the Zim Nakwana was the jazz musician that everybody knows in South Africa, who's also his music is very spiritual and he's an activist. But one thing he taught us is that music for him was just one means of activism, and activism for him was Black consciousness. So the idea is that, like Leo, you do poetry, you do music, you do philosophy, you do Buddhism, all kinds of things, spirituality. Each one of those things is just a tool towards um, enlightenment and towards Ubuntu and towards Black consciousness, which is basically humanism. So it doesn't mean so. For example, I know Zim as a musician, but he doesn't see himself as being anything special by being a musician because it's just one thing that he does. And I've noticed that's what we do in Africa, especially in places like South Africa. Nobody can be categorized as one thing. What do you think? What would you say? Especially as how you are as an artist. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Like there are so many doors, and
Yeah. I
as
like
much
that. So many doors. Yeah.
yeah, there are so many doors, man. And I guess it depends on how channeled you are, and how aware you are and where you wanna go.
Yeah,
But
I
then
know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
yeah, man, yeah, man. But then if you open enough, you can venture into all these other doors, within these doors,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
you you get to meet your other side, your other self, and you express yourself in all these different forms. So that's basically for me where it's at,
Yeah.
being enough and being allowed to actually be used.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, man,
Yeah.
being allowed
And I
to
like what you said about opening doors because there's something I heard a female painter say. She said that if you know what you're going to paint, then it's not art. If you already know. So it's a process of self-exploration and exploration of the world. And I've noticed that's what causes things like writer's block, or if you're not
I like
doing
that.
well, is because you're not
Yeah.
open. You're not opening yourself up to exploring and finding out surprising things about
Mm.
yourself. If it doesn't surprise you, it won't surprise the viewer or the listener or the person who's watching what you do. So I think that's very important. And I thank you for saying that because that's going to help me center myself for my own creative process. But yeah, so
Yeah.
today we're talking about so going back to Zim, the mean way that he reaches a sort of level of humanism for his society, for people in South Africa, for people in Africa, and for the humanity in general is through either Malopo or Malombo, which I'm beginning to realize goes deep. It goes very deep. When we got talk about
Mm.
guys like Tabane, this is a spiritual system. These guys are like shaman. So
Yeah,
the idea is that it's a South African, but in generally it's an African way of art and music and writing, in which they're also just one thing coming from the same center, which is the spiritual improvisation. Yeah, I almost forgot. I think it's the wine. spiritual spiritual improvisation. That's what I'll call it. And this is going to the point where African art is actually the word art is that's a European word. It's actually basically creative spiritual behavior. What would you say?
um, true, man. And it's also ritualistic in a sense,
Yeah, the ritualisms and stuff like that. That's part. So that's part of making it sort of religious and traditional, and at the same time,
True.
your ritual is part of spirituality because it's a sort of form of repetition and meditation, which leads to performance or to being able to do what you're walk your path and execute properly. I think ritual is very important. Kind of like before my show, I have different types of hats for different shows. And it's very important to me. It's a psychological thing. It's not even a joke, you know. And I have the same, but also at the same time, it can get dangerous because you want to be flexible. Sometimes you veer off a little bit from your ritual, but even that is part of the ritual. What do you think? Yeah.
Yeah, man. True, man.
Yeah,
True.
yeah.
And
I think the ritual is important also, and the ritual shows you that this is a community activity that's been built up. So it's not just purely from nowhere. These rituals and traditions and things are part of the science of African spirituality and African cosmology. So that's what I think. Yeah. So.
Oh, sure. You know, they help with divine interventions. You know,
Yeah.
certain transcendence. If you you know you will transcend from certain rituals.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
You know,
so
and
I like that you said that. Go ahead, continue. Go ahead.
Yeah, man. Like you literally you transcend. You know, you be in trance. You know, and
yeah. I agree with you because to me, trance is the ultimate form of not spiritual performance, but when people are performing and they're doing that, I think that the trance part is very important because the trance, it takes darkness, it takes light, it takes pain, it takes happiness, and it puts it sort of in a center. I always use the word zombie. Zombie is not always a bad thing, but it's when you now become a medium for the spiritual world. And the thing about trance, so when you're looking at like some of these things like the Kosa or the Zulu, when they're doing their musical performances, the traditional stuff, at some point they get into a rhythmic trance, and that's when the creative part comes up, and is when you're no longer yourself. You are the god or the goddess or whoever. You're that person, which is actually you, but you've divined that energy, and and you see that in music, like when someone does a good solo, whether it's Charlie Parker or Zim or Masakelo or anyone, they start to reach a trance, and that's when the thing becomes steady, and and while they're doing that, they're communicating. I always say, like when I'm listening to Coltrane, I'm actually outside of time, and he's communicating with me. When you enter trance, you're entering a zone of where there's no time, you know. So, and yeah, and a lot of times we do have other performances where, like, maybe if you play the guitar very well, so you can play a beautiful melody. Sometimes it's just feeling, but I think that the deepest type of art is the one that goes into trance, where you're able to balance feeling and the mind and darkness and everything. So that's going to bring me to the transition of what we wanted to focus on today. So with Zim and with Malopo, it can be used for any type of performance. Sometimes you have weddings, sometimes you have festivals, sometimes you have funerals. But I want to focus on Malopo Malumbo African science of spirituality as it focuses on pain. And the first thing that comes to my mind when I think about pain is the blues. The blues take the blues. So I always said pain cannot be described by any art. Pain cannot be described by any art or music because pain, when you're going through pain, you're not even creative. And it's also something that's interior. But what I think things like the blues and art can do is that they can transform pain. Because at that moment when you're performing, like when you're in the transform or transposition, it means that you're taking that pain and you're positioning it somewhere else. It's not better or worse, but for some reason it's more powerful in healing in the long run. But what's happening is that you're not saying what the pain is like. You're actually taking the pain and use it to create. So I think that's the difference that I would like to see in the world, is that music doesn't express pain. What music does is that it expresses itself in response to pain. And I think that's what you call Ngoma Sangoma. Ngoma is the song, right?
Yeah, man.
And Sangoma is the healer. The healer is not expressing pain. The healer is taking the energy of pain and using it to create something else. And the energy isn't lost. The energy isn't lost. So it's the still amount of energy, but it's showing alchemy and magic in which you can take pain and transform it into something else. What do you think, VUYO?
Beautiful, man.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And even what we're doing now, that was a trance I was in now. We don't plan these things. We're just discussing right now. So let's go to that and talk about your relationship to pain. You grew up in South Africa. You're probably old enough before even apartheid went, and even after apartheid is gone, too much pain in the country. We've seen people like the guy you showed me that cut himself, and we've seen pain, but yet you still have the energy to create music. So can you speak freely now about what pain means to you and what its relation is to your artwork as a healer? Because I think the other day you told me that you're a healer, and I agree. We're healers. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Hey, it basically, you know, man, how intense things really get. You know,
Yeah.
how how chaotic, within the
Hmm.
environment, even internally, because we feel so many things
And we're under
that
a lot
set.
of pressure. We have children. We have to worry about money. We have to worry about the world falling apart, crime. Yeah. Sorry. Continue. Sorry for interrupting you.
Responsibilities and so on. So, in order for me to keep my sanity, and 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 remain, as clean, I guess, and as empty, you know,
Yeah, we were
as
talking about emptiness.
possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I have to find a way and transition this energy, something positive, something that gonna make sense at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So for me, that's through the arts, through the writing, through the expression of, what I think this feeling is at the end of the day. But
Yeah.
then as much as and fully explain it completely into what this sexual what feeling is, as uncomfortable as it might get. But
Yeah. Yeah.
then
So you're what you're
through
doing
the
is
right.
you're getting closer to the pain, which is what like blues and stuff like does. That gospel moves away from it and takes it to God. I'm not That's not a bad thing, but it's trying to make it as comfortable as possible. But although I'm wrong, because you've heard Mahalia Jackson, she doesn't escape the pain when she sings, man. You understand what I'm saying? Mahalia Jackson, some South African gospel music, they actually maintain that pain, like you were saying, and so continue that thought of what you were saying, like becoming, even though it's uncomfortable, you have to embrace it, or you have to at least approach it and deal with it, address it. Address
And
it is the right word. Yeah. Yeah.
you have to address and face it head on.
Yeah.
Like really face your feelings, basically.
Yeah.
Feeling your feelings, feeling your
Yeah.
emotions, as raw and as intense as they can be. And
Yeah.
yeah, man, it gets pretty intense, but then we use certain practices, that help us deal with these. So
Yeah.
hence,
Yeah. And even when it
we're
gets
gonna.
intense, it's just like I don't know, because I'm talking about Congo. In Congo, people take iboga. It's a drug. It's like acid, and you go through the intense experience, and it breaks you down. But at the end, there's peace. So it's not just intense pain. There's a resolution. Like remember that song, the creator has a master plan by
Yeah, man.
Pharaoh
Yeah,
Sanders.
man.
The song goes intense, but then at the end, boom. And that's just like African ritual performances. You go through the fire, everything, then it calms down, and at the end you end slow. Or like Coltrane's um what's Love Supreme. Parts of that song, there's a slow build up, then you go into the fire, then there's the
Mm,
resolution. So I think that's what you're trying to say. Well, that's what you're saying, actually. Yeah. and
yeah,
and
man.
that's
Yeah, man.
that's an ancient healing process that goes back to the first human beings, and we see it in art and music, and the only way it works is if you conserve the pain, because there's no way to get rid of the pain. There's an ancient wound in human beings that we'll never
Yeah,
get rid of, and trying to escape it, drugs, alcohol, uh
yeah, man.
sex,
Yeah, man. Yeah,
power,
man.
trying to escape it makes it worse. So what happens is we have to find a way to merge it into the rest of our consciousness. We have joy. Like sometimes, even when you're broke and you might get kicked out of your house tomorrow, you can still laugh. But at the same time, you'll cry. You can't get rid of either of them. You can't get rid of joy and laughter and humor, and you can't get rid of pain. They're
Yeah, man.
interwoven. They're interwoven. So I think the lesson that you've taught us here is that as an artist, you address pain and you deal with it, which is very brave because it's painful, but the process leads to resolution. The only sad thing is that after the resolution, the pain comes again. So it's like a continuous cycle. What do you think?
Like I said, we keep on going through it over and over and over.
Until
But
we get
then,
old. Hopefully we get old and then our grandchildren can take care of us. And I say, okay, you children, it's your time for pain. I think that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to to go through all the cycles of life, because when we're 60 and 70, we don't want to be hustling like we are now. We want to be watching our children and make sure that our children are on the right path. Sorry, thank you. Let's go back to what you have to say.
Yeah, too bad, man. Because
Yeah.
as I'm saying, things can like get really intense. So the best way, man, is to be able to channel it. You know,
Yeah.
not in a destructive way. You know, you were saying.
Channel, yeah. And I think that's where the trance comes into. You know.
Yeah.
The trance is a channel, actually. It's actually a channel.
You know,
and also, but I will say your style of music, especially when you recite poetry or when you sing, you're sort of like for lack of a word, a witch doctor. You're like a shaman. You're like very explosive and intense. So I can understand what you mean there, where you say the intensity, because so what you're doing is you're purging the evil through fire itself. You know, I tend to go the opposite. I become cold, but my coldness is actually an intense emotional response to my pain. So the coldness is also the same thing, but once again, it's a transposition of fire. You know, but it has the same potential energy inside of it. You know, so wait. Now you said you were going to bring some poetry today. Would you like to perform one of them for us now, or read them? Or did you bring poetry? Yeah. I didn't bring mine. I'm too scared.
Sure. In fact, you inspired this, you know, from the step. So I scribbled something short and I mixed it up with a little bit of something as well.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah.
But,
feel free. This is improvisation. Feel free to do whatever you want.
Yeah, man. So somehow we've survived wounds that we thought would never heal. Memories of past hurts, past pains, wounded, the bruised out, tormenting scars, the promise of hopeless weeping dreams. Spiritual, now they choking how, medically systemized, computerized, systemically brutalized. How could it be that all these Lucified, Diamond signed, Rockefellers glorified, they decide? Minority will not conquer, new world order. You eat or beaten, spoke in, dining in, vivid descriptions, new eyes, damned, spiritually blocked, self-mockery, bind by the clock, fanned by confusion, spiritually blocked, bind by confusion, spiritually blocked, picture, perfect, prophecy and vision, blind line with lime lies, truth and ruth that have been crucified, misery brought you special deliveries, deliver thee, blinded by faith, still unknown, the devil exists, but with God, how do they not know? So if your lies were colorful, what color would they be? You curse me with you curse me with your feels, you curse me with your hearts, split and divide the split apart, shame and the bitterness, damned, the one who is damaged, containing confrontations, conversations that don't end well, battle of the ego, deep in the wilderness of camelity, conversations that separate us, breaking down in, out misunderstandings, misunderstanding to barriers, triggers, triggering to patterns, past pains lived in the now, eyes to eyes is now seen.
Wow.
Not what we see.
And what I like about your poem, you went through that same pattern where you start off slowly and you beat up, and that's where the tension is. That's the war is. Then you subside, and I thought, okay, that's the end of the poem. Then it starts to rise again, and you go through the battle again. Then you subside. So that was perfect example of the ritual where you had your rhythmic setup for it, which drove the whole thing. That was a trance, but it was also a battle, which is actually a continual battle, because there were points where you would subside, and I said, "Oh, now he's relaxed." Then you build up again and come back. But there's one thing I want you to say where you said, Go back to that lyric you said about dealing with the waking dream. I think it was very paradoxical.
Waking dream.
No, something about avoiding the dream, but you have to hope for the dream, even though the dream may itself be a nightmare. That's the way I interpret it, you know. And it goes to some, yeah. It's something where you said, yeah.
Oh, within the promise of hopeless with dreams. Okay,
Hopeless,
so
hope. That was the word. Within the promise of hopeless,
hopeless weeping dreams.
hoping. Okay, hoping dreams. Yeah, yeah. So I
Yeah.
want to focus on that because like my son was telling me, oh, Dad, I've been having like a lot of dreams. Sometimes they're nightmares, sometimes they're good, but they're all weird. And I was like, you should be happy because once you stop dreaming, you're becoming a true zombie. You're losing your spirituality. I think
Oh,
actually, when we sleep, once we dream while we're asleep, I think it's the main source of our artistic power. Well, what do you think? And for people who
I,
don't dream, I hate to say the people who don't dream are, I'm going to be controversial, are businessmen like Gaten McKenzie or politicians like Trump. Or what I'm saying, politicians don't understand art. Businessmen don't understand art because they're very, but the dreamers, the healers are the dreamers, but the dreamers are the feelers. That's what I'm saying. Continue.
so you know what I think? I actually believe that when you dream, you literally travel through all these dimensions, man.
But that's astral travel. Yeah.
Even like without even astral traveling, but um, you can actually travel like so much within,
Yeah, within the world. Yeah.
see interpret reality differently, and
Yeah.
seeing the future,
I actually think that the dream world, is where we solve all problems. It's like it's almost like, and I think that is partly because of dreams that the Egyptians were able to make those pyramids. You know,
Wow, wow,
I think it's partly because of that travel. Even
wow.
mathematicians learn things while they're sleeping because dreams are. So to me, a dream is like is a solution or working out for problems. Continue. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, man.
That's what I
That's
believe. I
cool.
don't have proof, but that's what I believe. And like you said, you go through time back and forward.
Yeah, man. You travel through all these space and all through these dimensions, and
And to me, that's
you know,
African cosmology because once you realize that there's actually only one consciousness, the quantum net, there's actually just one consciousness, but consciousness is divided between you, me, Israel, Palestine, Nigeria, South Africa, Russia, Ukraine. It's actually a division of the soul, but the soul is actually one thing. And actually, there's no distinction. To me, there's no distinction between consciousness and physical matter. So the dream area is the area where we're able to become more unified, whether you want to call it Ubuntu or unification or unity. That's where you're able to become oneness with the universe. And that's why I think you're able to travel and do things. I don't know what you think. Yeah. What do you think? Yeah.
I think so too. That's how you can solve so many things, through your dreams,
Yeah. And that's why
and
they've had so many studies where people are trying to solve a problem and they're staying up all night. Then they go to sleep for 3 hours, and they wake
dreaming.
up and they solve the problem. Because this goes to show you we are more than our waking state. Our waking state is just the top of the surface. There's a lot of stuff going on deep beyond under the waking state, which, to be honest with you, probably saved your life many times, if you understand what I'm saying, because there were things that you were working through, like seeing through the future, knowing when you're going to get in trouble, and also knowing when to discern where there is trouble. You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about, man. I've been there, man. Yeah.
You know, even like sometimes, I dream of music as well,
Oh
certain
yeah,
melodies.
that's the craziest dream because when you dream of music, it shows you that it's music is intuitive. And what I mean is that you never create music, you channel it. Music is ageless. I've had dreams in which I did total symphonies, but in Europe, they'll tell you if you don't study composition, you can't do a symphony. No, studying
Yeah.
composition can help you unlock the symphony that's in you. But I've had those types of dreams, or when people do acid and things like that. I'm not promoting drugs, but I'm just saying sometimes when people do that, they start to create movies and songs. I'm not saying that they're going crazy. So it shows you that
Yeah.
the music is already inside of you. So the process of music is not to create music, is to unlock it and channel it. So thank you. You're giving me some good conclusions today. Continue. What do you think? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you're this vessel, this channel.
Yeah.
It's easy to channel, It's just
Yeah.
when you are more open to, all this other stuff, I,
Yeah.
I mean, like all these interventions, basically, because
Yeah.
not all of them are done, Yeah, not all of them is divine, but then you open
Yeah,
to the other side, you know.
yeah. And I think the artist I think has to be able to move between the divine and the evil because they have to learn how to channel the bridge between them. I think it's up to us to make sure that we no longer need interventions anymore, or we need them less and less. So the point I'm making is, like you said, some of it is divine, some of it isn't. But if you're the artist, you also have to be able to be brave enough to
That
approach
is
the other part that's not divine. Yeah, because that's part of the solution. The universe can't be broken apart. So the evil and good are closely connected. And I think the artist is supposed to show us how to make them neutral or creative and less violent. Like for example,
it's
Israel and
violent.
Palestine. Instead of Israel bombing Palestine, you can have breakdancing and you can have when rappers battle each other. To me, that's a form of violence, but it's better than rappers shooting each other. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm thinking that,
Yeah,
or the blues. The blues is very dark. Blues music is dark. My girl left me, and I'm gonna get my gun and shoot myself in the head. Ha ha. It's funny, but I'm not gonna shoot my head. But the point is, I'm talking about dark stuff too. And in the
yeah.
blues never tries to escape darkness or even evil, because all of us have done evil. I've done evil. I've made so many mistakes in my life.
Mm.
There's no way I can escape what I did. That's part of me. But what I can do is find a way to become empty. And I think that's what you said earlier. Become empty. Once you become empty, then you are nothing. You're not evil, you're not good. And then
Yeah,
that's when I think you're at peace. So what are your thoughts? Before we do some music of yours too. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. I think
Also, sorry, let me jump in front of you again. You mentioned that you've been dreaming about music a lot lately. Let's get back to that. Sorry. Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
I dream about it all the time, man. Even in my phone, how you know, it wasn't like me just scribbling and stuff like that. It's something. It was a vision, Like
Yeah, it just
I
came out of
saw.
you. You didn't create it. It came right out of you. Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So some I'll be. I just had my blunt, I'm just chilling, and then I fall asleep accidentally,
Yeah, I know exactly what you
during
mean. That's when you have your most
yeah,
powerful dreams. Even before work, sometimes I have to go to work in 30 minutes and I'll fall asleep deeply for 15 minutes and dream. Continue. Sorry. Yeah.
20 minutes nap, and
Yeah.
boom, wake up, and you have this beautiful melody, this beautiful song, and then now I have to like be quick, because now since
Before you forget it, or before you lose it. Yeah.
yeah,
Before
I
you
have
lose
to be
access,
quick.
you lose access to it. Yeah, yeah.
Put you on the top, like as soon as possible. Because if I time, I lose it, And I
Yeah.
think it's like that for all of us, most of us,
Oh yeah. There's
I
many,
think it's all of
and
us,
sometimes you know what I do? Sometimes I'll lose it and I can only do a shadow of it. So let's say it's the melody. You still have a feeling of it, even though you can't remember it. You just use that feeling to create, even though it may not be as powerful. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe like I have maybe I have 5,000 recordings, bro, or 2,000 recordings, like in my phone. When ideas come, like literally, and I just record them with my mouth,
Oh wow.
walking down the road, poetry
Wow, man.
lines,
This means that this is your calling. You're a healer, you're a shaman, and you're obsessive about it, which is the same thing. Like you see how many posts I put on Facebook with fragments. I've probably done more than a
Yeah,
million. I've done more than a million words. But the reason I put it on Facebook is because I'm going to come back to it later and create something out of it. So that means
wow.
it's your job to be a creative person. That means that's what the universe meant for you, because nobody else does that. Nobody has thousands of recordings. That means that what I mean by nobody, only artists and people do that type of thing. You understand? You have to be
Yeah,
obsessed, and that level of obsession is why a lot of times we suffer because, for example, maybe we may not be economically doing well because we're putting our energy into creating art. We're not putting
all
it
the
into
time.
into and I'll tell you the truth. Like the shows that I do on YouTube, I'd rather lose my job and go hungry before I let these shows not be aired. Because if I don't create, that means I am dead. You understand what I'm saying? If I don't create, when I don't create, I feel terrible all day. I feel like I'm depressed, which is wrong
Yeah,
because
man.
once you become Buddhism, you should also become empty where you don't even care about creating. But if we don't care about creating, then we need creators. So I think as creators, we're also sacrificing ourselves. We're
Yeah.
sacrificing ourselves because somebody needs to do it. Yes. What do you think? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, man. And I guess it's also part of the practice, because you've been practicing this for so long, practicing that for
Yeah,
so
it's
long.
become good. Yeah, it's like breathing. I was telling someone sometimes we did a show which was 1 hour. I did a show, Lerato
Yeah,
Kuzwayo.
yeah.
I did a show with
True,
him
true.
2 hours. I do football show. If you add up all the hours I've done, it's more than 500. And also, how many words have I said? Maybe 3 million. Where it's now become my body. So I now understand what you say. You have thousands of melodies because that's your way of breathing. It's actually part of who you are. Like walking. Every day when you walk 20,000 steps. You're doing
Yeah,
thousands of
man.
melodies because that's what you are. That's who you are as a flower. That's your fruit. Yeah, that's what I think. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. So
Yeah.
it's me being open once again to that, because I know that some years, man, I won't have a chance to come back. It's not like I'm gonna come up and check everything that I'm recording and so on. But then
No,
I
if you do that, if you won't progress if you do that. Yeah. You won't progress
yeah,
if you do that.
I try, I try, but then like it's my way of keeping up,
And
my
also,
way of
as you're doing it, there's an imprint on your soul. Every time you do those melodies, it's imprinted in you, and it's gonna come out again. So you don't need to go back to listen to it because it's also inside of your body and your they they call it in the West, they call it
yeah,
your limbic system. Your emotional system has stored that energy. That's the way I look at it. Okay.
like there's a poem that I wrote a while back, but there's a line where it goes, "Wasted thoughts, now they gone, useless, nothing left to be formed."
I remember you
You
said that
know,
in the last. We actually put it on our
so
channel. I remember that. Go ahead. Yeah. Yeah. Nothing less to be found. Yeah. So it's a trace. So
yeah,
you have to
man.
keep up the practice, but also the message in that is that you have to go back to your practices and study them too, which is what all great musicians do. But right now you're on the move, man. You're hustling. Ideally, for someone like you should be doing art and music 12 hours a day. Then you can spend 5 hours going back to your old recordings and things. Then you can create, you understand? But that's what we're trying to work to, which is why we're having our
Yeah,
channel. One day we want to get funded and the reason we want to get funded is not because we want money, because we want money so that we can continue to do the practice. The money is
yeah,
not most, if I have the money, I'm going to buy a bottle of wine. I'm not going to lie to you.
I
I'm gonna go to the store. But most of the money I'm going to use is going to be to buy time to keep creating. Because to me, creating is my path. It's my religion. There's nothing else
sure.
that's more important. I hate to say this, my creativity is even more important than any human being in the world. But my
Wow.
creativity is meant for humanity.
Yeah, man.
I sound like I'm bragging, but I think you can relate, right? Yeah.
I can actually, man. I can, man.
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
big time,
Yeah.
because it's one of those things, man. Those purpose paths, that we have to walk.
Yeah,
I
it's a
feel like
path.
this
It's a path. Like like
because
in Buddhism, they talk about bodhisattva. It's the same thing. We have to walk the world. We have to struggle. We're not going to get nirvana now because there should not be nirvana until everybody on the earth is healed, and that doesn't happen until the healers struggle and suffer and also exalt. Sorry, continue. Yeah.
yeah, man. Okay, you have to walk the talk, man. You have to be within the path,
It's not easy, man.
and
When I go into the monastery, we talked about it yesterday, the Buddhist monastery where we're away from the troubles. We have to be
yeah,
out here in the world. So let's time is running out because of my recording. Let's go to your music. Give us a performance. Hopefully your friend can make it next time. Let him know it's still an open invitation, okay? Okay.
yeah, man. Yeah, man. I'll talk to him
Yeah.
today and see what happened. What's
Yeah, we
happening
can do
with him
something
and so.
next week or on Saturday. So thank you. Take us out, man, with some music.
Okay.
Man, you're making me want to cry, man. No, continue. Sorry, I jumped in front. Sorry, go ahead. Unbelievable. Like I listened to that whole song. You started off with the melody. Da, 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 da. That melody was beautiful. And when you did that melody, I now knew what you said. You've been dreaming about melodies now. You've been dreaming a lot about them, right? There was so much color. So the first, to me, that song had four parts. The first part was the melody by itself, beautiful. The second one was the changes with the melody. The third one was the I can't remember which came before, third or fourth. Then you just did then you did the rhythm when you were drumming it. So it was more of the rhythm, boom, boom. And then it was less melody and less chords and more drum, but there was still some of the melody. Then the last one was just the chords without the, it was less melody and the chords. You understand? That's what you did. You had four phases in that song. Maybe I'm wrong. Am I close to interpreting it properly? You had four phases in that song. But it was all based on the melody. You introduced the melody at the beginning of the song, and then halfway through you switched, and you switched to the changes, the melody with changes, which is like how most music is. Then you went to the rhythm. You were using the guitar as rhythmic, so there was less melody. But with all four phases, there was everything was there, but in each phase there was a different focus. But the root of the song was the melody. It also reminded me of, like, those Spanish songs they play on the lute in Spain or Italy, like 500 years ago. It was a very romantic song. The melody is romantic. Speak to it.
Wow, man.
Yeah, that's how I felt. That's what I saw from your music. And that's the best composition I've seen you do. What speak to it. What's the name of the composition? Yeah.
It's got no title yet,
Okay.
I don't want to lie, it's got no title yet. Basically, now when I'm like composing this music, I'm thinking of it in terms of solo guitar, and then how it's gonna come about when I play it with the full band.
Yeah, I was wondering how it would sound with your friend, because I've heard him sing. I think his vocals would suit that very well. Continue, because he has a very emotional, vulnerable. He has a vulnerable vocal style. Yeah, he has a vulnerable. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah. So continue. So continue with that thought, because I jumped in front of you. You think about it in terms of the solo and how it works with the rest of the band. Continue.
Yeah. So basically, it's when I write now, I want to orchestrate it. Basically, sound like and with all these different parts and all these different forms.
Yeah, so what you were basically doing, you did the four parts, but during the song, those four parts will be happening at the same time.
Yeah. It's something like at the same time.
I'm learning music. I'm actually learning by listening to you guys.
and then
four-part harmony. Four-part harmony. You just did a four-part harmony, man. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. But there'll still be transitions too. That's difficult, Yeah. So I hate to interrupt you, but someone who used to do that was Charles Mingus. He would write all the parts, but he could do them by himself on the piano. That's basically what you did. So continue with your thoughts. Sorry to interrupt. Yeah.
No, exactly. Because now I was playing the honey is supposed to be playing with the piano. You check. Basically. Yeah. La la le lu le lo le lu le lo.
Yeah. Yep.
That. Yeah. That's basically the piano, and the saxophone the day.
I think. But you were able. But on the guitar, and I always say a good instrumentalist whether it's a guitar or a piano, they can start to make them seem like they're the same thing and have the same function. You understand what I'm saying? Like when Coltrane is playing his saxophone has the same dynamics as the drummer. And also his
Wow.
melody sounds just like the piano melody, but actually they're all adjusting to each other. So what you're doing is that the way you played the guitar, the melody, it was almost as percussive as a piano is. You understand what I'm saying? Because usually when you think about guitar, you think about chords, but you also made the guitar sound like it was a keyboard. You understand what I'm saying? And also you were using like a strong stroke. Your strings were really vibrating and it brought out more color in the melody. You see what I'm saying? I was listening to you. That was a brilliant work. Man, you've been doing very good work. So I'm not going to talk anymore. This is your time to talk before we go out. Speak more to the song and everything. Your thoughts. Yeah.
But basically the song, man, it's I could say it's one of those where you low, you know, and
yeah,
because I'm always thinking, you know, about the other side, you know, about the lights, you know, about being easy, man, and
yeah, rather than dark. Yeah.
So I guess into Batia police, you know, which means
Yeah.
it must be soothing, man. It must be good.
Yeah.
It must feel good heart. So the more I was playing that melody, the more it was pleasure. It's basically based on pleasure, you know, more than anything else. You
Yeah,
know,
but
to be honest.
there's still a hint of sadness. It's also romantic and sad, but it's nice and relaxed. But it never is there's a sort of longing there too. Da, 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 da. So there, I won't call it pain, but there's still some sort of nostalgia or something like that. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, true
yeah.
that, man. True
I
that,
like that.
you know.
So we're gonna head out soon. Any last thoughts? You know, thank you. This once again, I didn't realize this show was gonna go to this level, and I think that the two things I take from this show was that composition you did and how you talked about you're making it for everyone. And also how you said that you're trying to be relaxed. Because early on we were saying that we have to face pain. You're trying to be soothing and, you know, chill, just relax, have positive vibes. But at the same time, early on, we said that as healers, we can't escape dealing with darkness. So what I think is that even that composition you made is through a meditation through pain, but ultimately it
Yeah,
was positive. And the message I get from it, and because we've been talking about Buddhism a lot, is to just chill and relax. Don't worry if you missed the deadline. Don't worry if your car is about to break down. Don't worry if your girlfriend hasn't called you. You love yourself.
you
You love
know.
the universe. And that music you expression was showing your love for yourself, but also your love for humanity. What are your thoughts? Yeah.
Yeah, man. Because it has to work for all of us, you know. If
Yeah.
it's not about me and it's not about the rest of us, then what's the point, you know?
There's no point. There's no
Because
point. And
yeah,
that's
there's no
Ubuntu.
point.
Yeah. It's about all of
We
us, but
do this
within that, all of us should have enough space to be individuals. But we all have to live together in peace.
exactly, man. You are more than allowed, you know, to be an individual and self, as long as you're having any, you know.
Yeah, yeah. But sometimes we all have
Yeah,
to go out and farm. We all have to collectively farm together. We can't just say, "Oh, I'm an individual. I'm not going to work." We all got to do something, man. And that's what we're doing. What we are doing is farming because we're going to cultivate something for our culture. You know, this is Community TV Africa, and the idea is that how many shows have we done together now? 4 or 5, and it continues to develop. Also this time the connection was good, so that guitar solo you played is going to sound beautiful when we post it. Okay. Any last thought? Yeah.
now, man. I'm just grateful, man, and
No, I'm grateful to
like
you and thank you. No, continue.
I'm
Yeah.
really, you know, I'm
Yeah.
learning so much more, and
I'm
like
learning
now the
from you.
more, you know, I'm doing more research when it comes to these particular subjects, you know.
Yeah. And
So
also, so very soon we're going to do a show on emptiness in Buddhism because I think it's an important topic. We're going to talk about emptiness maybe in the next coming weeks. Okay. All right. So Vuyo, I'm going to let you go. Enjoy your day. I'm going to call you right after we're done. But I want to say God bless you. The universe bless you. Love you very much. And thank you for coming into my world. Thank you for coming into our world. Everybody have a good day. Vuyo, stay blessed. Friday is almost here. Bye-bye. Okay.
Sure, bye.
Bye-bye.